This is the third video in a series pointing out all the slanderous lies and misrepresentations found in the Amazon docuseries Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets, in chronological order as they appeared in the program. We're still in episode 2 and up to number 25.
The way that my aunt is so soft-spoken, meek and mild, and just really quiet spirit.
Oh, it drives me
and
nuts.
Then stop.
The voice is a very intentional trained thing. It's part of what we were instructed to do.
She infantilizes herself on purpose.
There is no instruction anywhere in the IBLP seminars, in the materials, and etc. that suggests women are to infantilize themselves in any way or to manipulate the pitch of their voice to mimic a child's voice. Absolutely untrue and another lie. Michelle Duggar has a high-pitched voice naturally. This was not taught to her.
You had to wear your hair a certain way to frame your face.
I know this was a very short clip, but I wanted to point out the problem with this statement. It is had to. This suggests that Bill Gothard mandated what hairstyles women were supposed to wear. I'll be doing a separate video to show more details about how this is not the case after this series is completed. Suffice it to say for now, this was not a mandate from Bill Gothard about how anybody had to wear their hair. Although Shiny Happy People was trying to suggest here that it was a part of being in the supposed IBLP cult.
You were taught you had a spiritual gift, and you were supposed to determine what your spiritual gift was, and that spiritual gift was to be used for the ministry.
Really and truly, like, everyone's a prophet or a mercy. It's kind of a funny, like, little typecasting. And prophets have carte blanche to be as big a jerks as they want, and mercies are just supposed to take it. And then, of course, all the men are prophets, and all the women are mercies.
Here it is suggested that the concept of spiritual gifts was created by IBLP and Gothard to allow men to use it as an excuse to abuse women. Brooke Arnold says all women were mercies and all men were prophets. I've seen numerous personal papers and applications for different positions in IBLP and for training center participation that shows women having all kinds of other gifts, including that of prophet, and men having various gifts. This is just a flat-out false statement and a misrepresentation of what the concept of spiritual gifts was for. This false statement was put in Shiny Happy People to further the narrative that men were taught to abuse women in IBLP.
When the baby is born, it's my buddy until it's weaned. And then from there, it goes to the other buddy, whoever's turn it is to get a buddy.
To a child who's 11 years old raising a baby, and they just saw on TV, it touted as the buddy system. And nobody said, is anybody checking to see if that 11-year-old had some needs? That maybe she shouldn't have the baby in the bed with her? That maybe she needs school?
This is the first of a series of false claims and slanderous statements made about Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar's parenting. Here they're suggesting that the Duggar parents neglected their children by having a system of cooperation between the siblings to help Michelle take care of them, and that once they got a buddy, they were actually raising the other child and that they were no longer schooled. None of the Duggar children have ever suggested they were neglected or educationally deprived in their family at all, and certainly not because they were using the buddy system in their home. Helping out your mother with your younger siblings is not raising them, and it's not abusive or neglectful.
When I was watching the Duggars, the attitudes of the children are what I noticed right off the bat. My heart broke for them because they were so calm and they were so peaceful and well-behaved, and I knew what it took to get there.
This particular clip is the setup to suggest that the Duggar parents were abusive to their children behind the scenes, and this is why they were so well behaved. In interviews other than in Shiny Happy People, both Laura Smith, the woman in this clip, and Chad Harris, the man in the next clip, have both claimed they were spanked often and abusively by their parents growing up. And that's certainly possible. But this does not mean the Duggar family was abusive. Nor does it mean that all IBLP families are abusive. Nor does it mean that fundamentalist Christian homeschool families are abusive in general. But listen to Chad Harris in this next clip and see how his testimony is put in this spot in Shiny Happy People to suggest just that.
Let's see if we can get a good hug out of this. Let's see. Give Daddy a hug. Boy, oh, wow.
They believed in physical punishment for nearly everything. It was a fear-based tactic, and it was very effective. In my family, my mom was my primary abuser. She would scream at us, she would threaten us, she would beat us mercilessly. At one point, she beat me for an entire hour in a church bathroom in an effort to break my will, as she said.
You could see in this clip that there was a demonstration on how to give an appropriate and loving spanking. Whether you believe this is okay or not, a huge number of people believe it is totally fine to give an appropriate spanking, and spanking has been around for basically all of recorded history. When a spanking is done appropriately, it is not abusive in the eyes of most people. But Shiny Happy People then twists this demonstration of appropriate spanking and turns it into a story of abuse by Chad Harris, giving his testimony of an inappropriate incident that he suffered at the hands of his mother, who he characterizes as abusive. It is not true that IBLP or Christian homeschool families generally use physical punishment for nearly everything. That is a false statement. There are many other forms of guidance and discipline used to help children learn to behave themselves. Shiny Happy People uses these testimonies as evidence that IBLP taught abuse and that the Duggar family was abusive to their children, and tries to link all this together to say they, meaning fundamentalist Christian homeschoolers, and specifically families who participated in IBLP, are abusive parents. This is slandering a large number of families because it's saying, in other words, if your children are well behaved and you are a Christian homeschool family, therefore you must be an abusive parent, and that's why they're so well behaved, because you're abusing them behind the scenes.
The show is basically saying perfect angel children exist. But I didn't see calm, happy children. I saw broken spirits.
This statement by Laura Smith may be what she saw because of her own personal experience and deep-seated problems in her own family. But this is an untrue statement about the Duggars because it is saying that the Duggar children were not happy. If you read the books their grown children have written and hear interviews with them, they all say they had a happy childhood and felt loved and cared for by their parents and their family. They were calm, happy children, and they did not experience broken spirits due to the alleged abuse that Shiny Happy People is trying to suggest was going on behind the scenes in the Duggar home. It's just more slanderous propaganda and spin by Shiny Happy People.
All children, if they were following the Institute's guidelines, you're spanked until you stop crying, which could be hours.
This is a flat-out lie. There is nowhere in the IBLP materials, seminars, teachings, and etc. that even suggests that you keep spanking a child until they stop crying. That is absolutely untrue. Yet Laura says that this was the Institute's guidelines. Right after this clip, Laura references the controversial book To Train Up a Child that was one of the suggested books at IBLP conferences at one time, among many, many others, although it is no longer. Whether or not you agree with the authors of that book, The Pearls, on their child training methods, there is nowhere in that book either that says to keep spanking a child until they stop crying. It is a slanderous statement to suggest that to be abusive to a child and spank them until they stop crying was following IBLP guidelines. There is no such guideline that has ever existed in IBLP at all.
You put the kid on a blanket, probably 6-month-old, and you put something they want just outside of reach off the blanket, and when they go to reach for it, you hit them. And if they continue to reach for it, you hit them again. The idea is you're breaking the rebellious spirit they are born with.
This is a complete mischaracterization of what blanket training is and what it is meant for. Blanket training in context is not plopping a baby on a blanket and hitting them when they reach for toys, or hitting them at all for that matter. Shiny Happy People goes on here to suggest that Michelle Duggar was an abusive mother by showing cleverly edited clips of her explaining blanket training to an audience and using excerpts from one of her books. There's an entire video on this channel explaining what Michelle Duggar does about blanket training and what it is step by step on this channel and on my parenting channel, The Mommy Answer Lady. It is not abusive at all. And Shiny Happy People used this method out of context to further their false narrative that the Duggars and IBLP are abusive to children.
When you are told to not resist when your parents are hitting you as a child because it's for your own good, when you believe that your body belongs to the church and to the authorities that be, it's absolutely designed to groom victims to be ready for more predators later on as adults, as young adults.
This clip is very cleverly edited to take the audience from thinking about a parent abusively beating a child to suggesting IBLP sets up children for sexual abuse. There's nowhere in the IBLP materials that teaches your body belongs to the church, nor does it teach children that their body belongs to the church. The editing they have done here is very manipulative, saying that Christian homeschool families and IBLP groom children for abuse. And not only do those monstrous parents do this, but the system is designed for that purpose. That's what this woman said. So in other words, the IBLP board and leaders have purposefully designed their seminars and homeschool materials and teachings so that children will be ready to be abused as they grow up. That is one of the most egregious slanderous statements against Christian homeschool families who have participated in IBLP or fundamentalist churches, and certainly against the IBLP board itself. Next time, women can't say no to men, husbands spank their wives and older daughters, and IBLP brothers regularly abuse their sisters. All that slander and more next time. Before you go, please remember to like, share, and subscribe.